everybody, I'm Nicole from the Haliburton County Public Library, and today we're going to be doing luminaries. So luminaries are just kind of a shell that you can light up. So here's my examples. And here's what you're going to need. It's a pretty simple amount. You will need some wax. So I'm going to be using a couple of candles. I have two bigger ones I have melted down already. You're going to need a double boiler and some water balloons and a LED tea light. You will also need to have parchment paper and a spoon and some paper towels. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so off screen I have filled up a water balloon. So the hardest thing about doing this craft is tying the water balloons. So one thing about the water balloons is that you need the amount of water in it is as high as you can go with the wax. You go over that and the balloon's gonna pop. Like I said, the hardest part of this is tying them. So depending on the water balloon is depending on your size. So if you get a bigger one, you can make a bigger one. I have two here, and those are the ones I will be using for this. So the parchment paper I have just to the side here, and that is to make the base flat so it doesn't roll over. You can see I have two sticks there. It's to help the steam come out. The wax in this is completely melted. You can add some color if you want, if you don't want it white. Totally up to you. I will say with the two big candles and on the sitting on boiling water, it took almost 45 minutes to melt the wax completely. So you just take the balloon and you hold it by the end there, and you very carefully dunk it in. And then put it on the parchment, holding it so that it gets the angle you want. And then again, you want to get 20 to 30 dips almost on this. I tend to do 2 at a time. Cool slightly, and then I do 2 more. And then I'm going to take my other one. So I just switched the angle a bit so you can see a little bit better. Take the other one. So the reason I do a couple and then switch is so that the base is built up so it can sit by itself without rolling, so you don't get a weird flat edge. And then I start alternating. So the only thing to be concerned about while doing this is steam. So I do have a gap there, so it is coming up on the sides. I just tend to avoid it. Otherwise, you can probably move it off the heat if you're going to be quick. But I have to keep readjusting for the video, so the heat's kind of has to stay on for me. So I said you needed a spoon, and that is to stir it as it warms up. You can also use a spoon to put a little bit of wax on the parchment and make that flat edge for it, but I tend to make a mess, so I tend to avoid doing stuff like that. So I'm just adding a little bit of candle wax that is colored. So as that's slowly melting, I'm going to keep dipping, and I should get just a slight color variation to it. Just remember, don't add food coloring to it. It doesn't tend to work very well. Keep that in mind. So those ones I'm going to leave. They're done. I'm just going to wait for them to cool. But I wanted to show you something on a different one. So this is with the color put in. I'm going to do the same process, but I want you to see it from like colored from the beginning type thing. Okay, so once all of your balloons are coated, let them cool completely so that they're hard to the touch, and then we're going to pop the balloons. Okay, so I just have a sharp knife, and I'm going to put this in the bowl and pull this up and hope it doesn't splash. So I recommend doing that over a sink, but I can't get a shot with my sink. So with the top, you can trim it down to be smooth, flat. I just tend to take the stuff that's really, really brittle off because it's going to break off when I put the candle in. And then I just put that to the side and I throw the pieces I broke off. I'll show you with another one. This one, I went really high up on the neck. And I do make sure these little pieces here, they get tossed in the garbage. If I could find something else to use besides balloons, I would. I'm gonna take the same sharp knife I used to pop the balloon, and I'm going to So the great thing about these is they can be any color, and no two are going to be exactly the same because you cannot get two balloons to blow up exactly the same. So the thicker you make the wax on these, the better it's going to be. I'm going to go dump this water out. So if you use a bowl, actually even in the sink, I suggest you put something to catch just a little bits of wax that go down, just so it doesn't clog your drain. So the reason you use an LED light is so that nothing melts. It is a candle wax, so this will melt if you have an actual candle in it. Okay, here's a close-up of the ones we did. So this is that one that had the really long bottle on it. So get it out. This is my example one. It's really small. I didn't get the balloon to go up too big. So, and as you can see, it's kind of on an odd angle. That was my trial and error. I figured out how to do the base. So just with some of the colors added to it, it looks a little different. So that is how you make the water balloon luminaries. You can make them really thick and then do little relief designs. And you can just take a little knife or whatever and you can just carve in to the design. You would need to make it really thick so that the design would stand out once you carve it out, but those are the simple versions of the luminaries. Okay, so that's the video. Thank you for joining me.